Hey there, this is James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems and BikeJames.com, and in today's training tip I want to highlight a great overall body power exercise and a great conditioning exercise, the Kettlebell Snatch. The Kettlebell Snatch, like I said, is a great exercise for us, but unfortunately a lot of riders jump into it too soon, and because of that they struggle with a couple of key points. So what I want to do is show you what the Kettlebell Snatch looks like, go over a couple of basic coaching cues with you, and then go over a couple of common mistakes and some ways that you can fix that. So a good snatch is built on the same, on the platform of a swing. So we're working on this hips back and chest down. Again, we want to focus on trying to keep our shoulders over our base of support as we do this. We don't want to tip our shoulders forward. We want to push the hips back and try and keep our shoulders more over our feet. But what we don't want to do is we start doing a snatch is start doing an up and down movement where we're bending through the knees more. So that's the first thing you need to make sure that you're doing is powering this from a good base of a swing. So you're going to get set like you're going to do a single arm swing. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hike the kettlebell back. And instead of letting it come out in front of you, what you want to do is pull it up high. So I'm driving my elbow up high and behind me, and then my elbow is going to flip underneath and punch through to the ceiling. And that's the important part that a lot of people miss. A lot of people do a big swing to here, and that is why the kettlebell ends up smacking them in the wrist. And that's the #1 complaint that people have about this exercise, is it smacking them in the wrist and causing pain and discomfort. And of course it doesn't feel good to have that. But that's one of the cool things about kettlebell snatches is it instantly lets you know whether you did it right. That's the kettlebell just giving you a little smack on the wrist and saying, hey, you're not doing this right. When you do it right, the kettlebell settles on there nice and smooth. So that's what you should be looking for. So I'll show you a couple in action so you can see what I'm talking about. So you hike it back. So you can see at no point the kettlebell smack into my wrist. So first thing that you want to keep in mind is that your snatch is built on the base of a good swing and a good shoulder press. At the bottom, I'm in this position here. This is my swing. At the top, I'm in this position here. This is the top of my shoulder press. If I have any issues with either one of those two exercises, I shouldn't be worried about doing the snatch, because it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what the rest of it looks like. If you don't own the top and the bottom positions, then you'll always struggle with this exercise. And I have to say that 90% of the problems that people have with the kettlebell snatch is because they've jumped into the snatch before they really own those other two movement patterns. So you need to make sure that you own your swing, which also means that you have a great deadlift. You shouldn't be doing swings until you own your deadlift. And you also need to have a great overhead press, which is built on a great Turkish get-up. So again, you shouldn't be doing shoulder presses until you own your Turkish get-up and have shown that you can get into this position without having to run movement through the shoulder. So once you've got those exercises down, honestly, it makes learning this exercise so much easier. New clients that I work with, I do not let them start doing snatches until they own those two exercises. But when they do start doing snatches, they pick them up like that, and they have a much easier time figuring them out than if I tried to rush them in too quickly. So again, make sure you own those exercises. That's my #1 training tip right there. Don't rush into them too quickly. Now, my second training tip concerns how to keep the kettlebell from smacking you in the forearm. So let's say that you've got those things down. You own those movement patterns. You're ready to start snatching. What you want to do is imagine that there's a wall in front of you. You have to get out of the habit of letting the kettlebell come in front of you and then trying to pull it back and try to keep it as close in to your base of support as you can. The more that you can pull the kettlebell up and then punch through, the better you're going to do with this exercise, the less it's going to smack you. So a good visual that I've heard is as you come up, imagine there's somebody behind you and you're trying to elbow them in the face. Now you notice though, my elbow ends up higher than my shoulder. This is another common mistake is once people start imagining this, they start trying to not hit that imaginary wall in front of them and drive their elbow up and back. They end up not really driving the elbow up and back. and it ends below their shoulder. And then they end up having to press the weight out. So if I was to do that, it would look something like this, where you would catch it lower and have to press it out. So you have to end up with that elbow up high. In fact, you may just practice what's called the high pull, just getting that elbow up. And once you got that down, it's just flip the elbow under and then punch through, and you'll have a good snatch. So again, just trying to keep that kettlebell in nice and tight, and also on the way down as well. You want to make sure that you flip the kettlebell over and just keep it in nice and tight. You don't want to let it get away from you out in front of you, because that'll save your grip, especially when you're doing high rep snatches, which is one of the greatest conditioning tools that you have as a mountain biker. So again, hopefully these training tips will help you get a little bit more out of your snatches, but for a lot of you, it really means just go back and work on your swing and your shoulder press, get those down a little bit better, and your snatch will probably come along as well. So once again, this has been James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems. You can check me out on the web at bikejames.com, and I'll talk to you next time.